The sun had just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. In the middle of a war-torn village, a young woman named Amina sat alone beside the ruins of her home. Her trembling hands held a small bowl of rice, the only food she had left after 3 days without eating. What city are you watching from today? If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe for more real stories about extraordinary people. The world around her was chaos, the air filled with gunfire in the distance, the sound of tanks rolling through cracked roads, and the cries of children echoing through the cold wind. But in that moment, Amina just wanted to eat. Just one quiet meal to remember that she was still alive. She whispered softly to herself, "For Mama and Yusuf." Her eyes watered as she scooped a bite of rice into her mouth. Her little brother Yusuf had been only 10 when the soldiers came last week. He didn't make it. Amina closed her eyes and tried to silence the memories. That's when she heard it, the heavy footsteps approaching from behind. She froze. Then, a cold metal pressed against the back of her head. A harsh voice barked, "Put the bowl down." Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might give her away. She didn't move. Another soldier laughed mockingly. "What's this? A feast? Let's see what she's got." The man with the gun leaned closer, his breath smelling of smoke and anger. "I said, put it down." Amina slowly turned her head. Her eyes met the soldier's. His uniform was covered in dust and blood, his face hardened by exhaustion. But his hands didn't shake. The gun stayed fixed at her head. The others stood behind him, hungry and tired. Soldiers from an invading unit. They'd been marching for days with little food, and now they wanted hers. Amina's lips trembled. She looked down at her bowl, then back up at them. "It's all I have," she whispered. The soldier sneered. "Then it's all we'll take." And as he reached to grab the bowl, Amina did something that none of them expected. Amina looked straight into the soldier's eyes, calm, unblinking, and filled with something he didn't expect: dignity. Her hands, still trembling, lifted another spoonful of rice. The gun pressed harder against her head. "Did you not hear me?" The soldier shouted, his voice echoing across the broken walls. Amina's voice was quiet but steady. "If you're going to kill me," she said softly, "then let me die with a full stomach." The words hung in the air like a haunting melody. The other soldiers went silent. One of them muttered under his breath, "She's crazy." But Amina didn't care. She took another bite, slow, deliberate, fearless. Her eyes never left the man pointing the gun. The soldier's finger twitched on the trigger. He'd seen rebels, traitors, men who begged for mercy, but never a woman who ate calmly while staring down death. "You'd really die for that food?" he asked bitterly. Amina lowered the spoon and whispered, "I already lost everything else. This food isn't just mine. It's my brother's last gift. You can take my life, but not his memory." Her voice cracked on the last word. Something inside the soldier shifted, a quiet ache he hadn't felt in years. He saw, for the first time, not an enemy, but a sister. A girl starving, holding on to a ghost. The other soldiers looked at him, waiting for his command. The man's jaw tightened. "Let's go," he muttered. "What?" One of them protested. "We haven't eaten in," I said. "Let's go." He barked, his voice sharp, trembling with guilt. Amina didn't look away. Her eyes followed them as they turned and began to walk off. But just before the soldier left, he stopped. He turned back toward her, reached into his pocket, and tossed a small, dirty package onto the ground. It rolled to her feet, a piece of bread. He looked at her once more, and for a fleeting second, his eyes softened. "You're braver than most of us," he said quietly. Then he was gone. Amina stared at the bread for a long time. The wind whispered through the ruins as the last light of day faded away. She placed the bread beside her bowl and whispered, "Thank you, wherever you came from." For the first time in weeks, she smiled, a small, broken, beautiful smile. She wasn't just alive. She had reminded even war-hardened men what humanity still meant. That night, Amina sat beside the dying fire, holding the piece of bread in her hands. It was cold and hard, probably days old, but to her, it felt like a miracle. She divided in two, whispering, "Half for you, Yusuf." She placed one piece on the ground, where her little brother used to sit beside her. The night wind carried her words into the darkness. In the distance, thunder rolled, or maybe it was gunfire again. But she didn't flinch anymore. Something inside her had changed. The soldier's face, that single look before he turned away, stayed in her mind. His eyes had carried both shame and mercy, like a man who remembered he still had a soul. Amina took a deep breath and whispered, "Maybe. Maybe that's how peace begins. One small act. One human heart remembering another." The stars began to appear, dim and scattered over the ruined sky. Amina looked up, her eyes glistening. "Mama used to say the stars are the eyes of those we've lost," she murmured. "Tonight, they must be watching." She slowly ate the rest of her rice, saving the bread for tomorrow. Around her, the silence no longer felt like fear. It felt like survival. Days passed. Word began to spread among nearby villages about the girl who faced soldiers and lived. Some said she stared death in the eye. Others said her courage made soldiers drop their guns. No one knew the full story, but everyone remembered her name. Amina, the girl who chose to eat instead of surrender. And somewhere, far away across the border, in a dimly lit army tent, that same soldier sat alone, staring at a cracked piece of metal, a bullet he had never fired. He whispered, "She made me remember what it means to be human." He put the bullet away, picked up his rifle, and walked back into the night, not as a conqueror, but as a man trying to atone. Back in the ruins, Amina smiled faintly, her face glowing in the dawn's first light. She didn't know it, but her act of courage had changed more than just her fate. It had awakened humanity in those who'd forgotten it. And in the middle of war, that was something worth living for. Thanks for being here till the end. I know there are a million things you could be watching, so the fact that you chose to stay means more than you think. If this story touched you, let me know down below. I read every single comment myself.